All right, Jen Vincent, thank you so much for joining us for the I wish somebody would have told me that virtual summit. Thank you. I'm so happy that you're here. I love the angle that we're going to cover today because this is a very important place. You have a full-time career and you've been working on your passion project, your slash passion entrepreneur project for a while now. So will you please introduce yourself and tell the viewers a little bit about you?
Sure. My name is Jen Vincent. I am a writer, a blogger, and an educator. So I've been in education for over 20 years. I'm currently a middle school teacher, and that takes up a lot of my time. But in 2019, I really felt strongly about starting my own business to support writers because I absolutely love writing. And it's something that has helped me learn so much about myself, process about myself, but also help me set my story free. And that is what I really want to help people be able to do.
So tell me about the impetus so your brand is Story Exploratory. And tell me about how you came to what you're doing now in terms of looking at writing as a springboard for healing. I know a little bit about your business. So I think it's a very unique angle. I think it's very important work. So how did this all come about?
So for me, I started writing really with the eye to publish in 2011. I did something called NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. And you take the month to write 50,000 words, and that's like winning NaNoWriMo. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And I really, again, wanted to publish my novel, and I started taking steps towards publication. And let me tell you, getting published, especially if you're going the traditional route, is not easy. There's a lot, there's a lot that comes with it, a lot that happens, a lot that you have to navigate. And as I was navigating that for myself, I really realized how much I loved writing in general. Like I just writing was really powerful for me. And in some ways, I needed it to be able to help myself on my writing process. So I had an agent and she turned out to be a fraud, like completely shut down her agency, like dropped everybody and was just done and disappeared. And that was really hard for me. I thought maybe I would never write again. And then I really took that time to think about like, no, I really love to write and writing is really important for me. And I knew that I needed to keep going. So what I could do was just little by little try to write for myself. And in really writing for myself, it helped me like unlock things that I needed to do. For example, my mom was from Guatemala. I had been there once. I wrote this essay at the end that was like, well, why aren't you going back? And it really helped me to go and to like open up that side of my life. So in navigating the writing publishing process, it helped me see that ultimately really what I need to center is myself at the right as a writer and take care of myself. And using writing to be able to do that is something that I found for myself. And that then led me to start Story Exploratory and to really help people set their own stories free. So I don't just do writing workshops, I really center the writer. So it's about living the life of a writer. What does that look like? How do you keep going when things are hard? How do you keep going when you're waiting to hear back from an agent or waiting to hear back to see how things are going? But then also, again, like you said, I realized along the way that writing can be really powerful as a way to heal myself and like to care for myself. So, again, centering the writer, knowing that, sure, if you want to publish and share your stories, that's great. But also, if you want to use writing just to help yourself, to take care of yourself, to acknowledge where you've been, what you've been through, the good, bad, the ugly, writing is a really powerful tool for self care.
I love it. I love it. And it's such beautiful work. And out of curiosity, do you think that what happened to you with that agent is something that was a catalyst for you finding Story Exploratory, or you were going to create Story Exploratory anyway?
I had been thinking about it already. Like I definitely had it in my heart. I had volunteered for 826 Shy, which is an organization in Chicago that works to help youth. It's like a writing slash tutoring center.
Mhm.
And I volunteered for them and I was like, this place is so cool. Like it's just this fun and funky writing place. And I was like, I want to have something like that. Like I wish we had something not in the suburbs. And so that was like, like percolating. And then after with my agent, yeah, I was working with a coach who was like, I think you have something else, right? Like I almost feel like that agent was a redirection. That like experience with that agent was a redirection. Not that I will never publish,
Right.
my writing, but just that it was like a, you know what, pause and get Story Exploratory going. Take care of yourself, nurture yourself in this other way, and focus on that for a little bit. So when something like that happens, I feel like it's such a time to think, okay, what happens next, right? Like I definitely was in this place of I'll never write again.
Mhm.
I'm just done. I remember running and just being like, I'm done. I'm never going to write again. And then letting myself pause to be like, no, I really do like to write, right? This is a horrible thing that happened, but it doesn't have to define me. It's just something that I experienced. And I had to figure out how to get back to writing. Like I have a notebook with blank pages, and I bought myself a brand new fresh set of Mr. Sketch markers to just like draw myself back and like take it really easy. And I just feel like that was what I could do. So I feel like I've heard lots of people talk about writing. People say like you have to write every day, or like wake up and do morning pages, or like there's a lot of people that want to tell you this is exactly how. And from what I've learned is so many things can happen in your life, and maybe you're working a full-time job or other things going on. So I want to help people explore what it's like for them to live the life of a writer. Maybe you write on the weekends, and Saturday mornings is your time to go to a coffee shop and just write. Or maybe you fit it in while your kids are at gymnastics. Like I don't know. I feel like there's so many ways that it can look like to live a life of a writer, and I want people to feel empowered to decide what that looks like for them and know that it can change depending on where you're at in life. And ultimately, again, like I just want to take care of that human being and help them know that, yeah, if you like to write, you have a story to tell, and you can decide for yourself ultimately what telling your story looks like and what living the life of a writer looks like.
Love that. Love that. All right. So let us transition to the three, damn, wish somebody would have told me that tips. What is your number one tip? Or I should say, tip number one.
Tip number one for me is baby steps to get started. And I've talked to friends about this before where it's like, okay, if you could just do one thing tomorrow, what would that one thing be? Right. And I feel like um, I, again, as a coach, like to ask a lot of questions and like help people decide for themselves. I don't like to be the kind of person that says, well, this is what you should do, right? Like you have to buy a notebook because it doesn't work for everybody. Some people use their phones. I have a client who created her own little mini notebooks that felt like not too big, not too precious, not too special, that she could really use those and just put them in her purse and take them everywhere. So I really like to talk to people about that. Like, what are your baby steps? What's be the very first thing that you would do? And I feel like um, taking action is so important. It's always going to be baby steps. At least that's in my experience. Like here I am every day being like, okay, what am I going to do today? What's the next step that I'm going to take? And really like trying to trust myself and honor that I know which way to go and what to do. But ultimately it is about taking action. And even if it's one small baby step, it still counts, right? Like we celebrate our children when they're babies and they take that first step. It's like monumental for us and for them. So I really just think knowing that it's always going to be about taking action forever and ever and ever. So finding that one baby step, but then knowing it's always going to be about the baby step. What's the next thing that you can do?
Yeah. And then it takes the pressure off for sure, right? Like when you do take the big, it's just little steps
Mhm,
every day moving forward. That's awesome.
mhm.
What about, damn, wish somebody would have told me that tip number two?
This was a really hard one for me. I would say figure out a way to give yourself an A.
Oh,
And this comes from being a really, really good student. So I am a teacher, and it's pretty much because I love school, and school was a really safe space for me. And I could go to school, I could do everything on the rubric or do everything my teacher expected from me, and I would get an A plus. I knew it was good, right? Like, and in the few years that I've been an entrepreneur, I feel like I've had to redefine that as again, taking those baby steps, that counts, right? And like give myself the pat on the back, figure out a way to celebrate whatever win it is, even if it's just like, okay, I sent an email. I sent an email to this person. I took a baby step. That counts, right? And I think it especially matters when things maybe don't go as we hope, like when we have this plan or we have this goal and we maybe don't reach it. I think being able to say, like, well, I gave myself an A because I put myself out there. I tried. I did this. I did that. I took action. Maybe it wasn't how I hoped. Maybe I'm redirected, right? Like it's not like a failure. It's just, okay, I'm being redirected to this other direction. Here's where I'm going to focus my energy now, and to just keep going. But to make sure that you figure out a way to celebrate those baby steps and honor yourself for the work that you are doing, because there's usually not people like clapping on the sidelines. I mean, you have your support system, but you really have to just make sure that you're honoring yourself and the work that you're doing.
Right. And to find a way to give yourself an A. I love that. I love that. All right. What about tip number 3?
Okay, tip number 3 is to give yourself grace. And I think I think there's a fine line between letting yourself like off the hook and giving yourself grace, right? Like not to say like, oh well, I didn't do something today. I didn't do it this whole week or this month. Like I feel like there's some level of still being accountable for yourself, but also giving yourself grace because life happens. There's so much going on. We do have to navigate a lot of things. Again, things might not go how we think they're going to go. And so it's okay to give yourself grace, to remind yourself that you're showing up, you're making progress, you're in it. Like any of those baby steps really do matter. And so give yourself grace if you want to be at a certain place and you're not there yet, right? Or like you think you're going to get so much done and you just don't. Like, I think it's okay as long as you continue to show up and again, keep yourself accountable to keep moving forward. It's okay if it's not exactly how you think it's going to go or it's not turning out to be how you think it's supposed to be. Try to let go of those expectations and just know that taking action is what's important.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's recap. So number 1 is baby steps to get started. Number 2 is figuring out a way to give yourself an A. I love that one. And number 3 is give yourself grace. Is be kind to yourself because this is a journey, right? It's like the longest marathon ever. It's not a sprint. That's for sure. All right, Jen, thank you.
Yep.
And how can people get a hold of you and find out more about your Story Exploratory and the best way to connect with you?
Sure. I am on Instagram at Story Exploratory, and I also have a website at Story Exploratory, and there's information there about workshops and coaching. I also have a Patreon to join if you would like to be part of that. It's a really great community. I really, again, because I center the humans, I think I have awesome humans who show up who like take care of each other because they're so nurtured by the space. So yeah, it's a really wonderful community to be a part of. You're welcome anytime.
Oh, I love that, Jen. Thank you so much for being on this virtual summit. Wish somebody would have told me that. And your tips are going to help people really recognize where the opportunity is. And so much of what you said had to do with just seeing things in a new light, choosing to see things for the benefits that they bring you and not for the setbacks or, oh, why didn't I get this started, etc. So really positioning things as opportunities and what was right about this and what's the benefit of that. So I love all the angles that you talked about. So thank you so much for joining us,
Yeah.
everything you shared.
Thank you so much for having me. I just wish everybody the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise.